Good morning and happy solar return, and if it's your birthday, an especially happy solar return. So let's look at today's reading. First of all, we had a number of symbols that stood out, and I've got to tell you, between this overturning and the feeling of unbalance and this contention that's always coming up and a problem with the spiritual stuff that you left in the past, it really feels like an anger issue. So, let's look. What are you looking at? Oh, you're not looking at anything. You're trying to solve things creatively, but there's nothing here to work with. I think that's being blinded by anger, and we're told to look at this. Examine. Okay, examine ourselves. So this is all about introspection. Why are you blinded by your own anger sometimes? Well, let's ask ourselves what the whole issue is here. There's a whole jumble. Your emotions, you're not in control of your emotions. Okay, I'm going to say, here's the thing. This is a very difficult reading whenever I get something like this for people, because it's not a judgment, but it might feel like a judgment. And that is when people can't handle their own anger. And I know when I've been angry before, I'll just, oh, it's just horrible. And sometimes you might say something that you regret later. Sometimes you don't just take a moment to wait a minute and then pull back. And in fact, that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So, wisdom. The time is all off here. So I don't have any time reference. This is about in the past, and everything's in the past. But what I'm getting is it's all about taking the moment to stop. And if you're angry about something, stop and pull back. Now, okay, first of all, there are some situations in which you cannot afford to take the time to stop for a moment, but most of the time it is. So take a moment and breathe before you speak. In fact, if you can, have you ever heard that saying, don't go to bed angry and get that thing settled? Okay, that is true for the most part. If you are living with somebody, you don't want to go to bed angry, because you'll just wake up with stomach cramps and a heartache, and nothing will have been solved. But if you can separate yourself from a situation, from people who are not immediately connected to you, whom you don't have to stay in the same house with, then you pull yourself back from the situation, breathe, and take your time a little bit. Then the next day you wake up, you might see it in a different light. You might have more empathy for that person. You will have had time to really think about it. Okay, so, I've just seen so many heartbreaking examples of especially parents who just browbeat their kids because the kids do something that's very natural for a child to do, and then the parent just gets angry and just blows up. That is the worst possible example of this thing. It's the strongest example of this losing your anger and hurting other people, which also hurts yourself, because especially in that example, if the parent blows up at the child, the parent completely destroys the relationship between the parent and the child. The child can no longer trust the parent because they don't know if the parent's going to blow up. The child doesn't know if every little thing that they do is under scrutiny, and do they have to second guess themselves, or triple, or even more than that, in fear of angering the mother or father. And so that becomes no longer a relationship of love, but that truly is a relationship of fear. So, wow. Okay, this is all about controlling our anger. We've all got stuff within us, and if someone's done something that offends you, then pull back. If you're not living with this person, pull back and just try to ask yourself if you can let it go. Number two, ask yourself what could have possibly cause that person to do that. And then third, make a decision as to what you're going to do about it. And if you are going to damage the relationship by talking in anger, or if you can keep the relationship by speaking out of some sort of logical reasoning with the person and speaking to them in a way in which it won't damage the relationship, but they'll listen and realize that you want to keep the relationship. Well, this is a tough subject, I got to tell you. Okay, Well, if it's your birthday, you got a tough thing to think about today. So all the best, every blessing. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing and sharing if you're daring, and for tuning in today. Happy solar return.